The New York Jets have agreed to terms on a trade for Aaron Rodgers. The four-time MVP goes from Green Bay to the New York Jets, where they now get their franchise quarterback.
Heading into last season, there wasn't a ton of optimism surrounding Titletown. Franchise icon Aaron Rodgers was off to New York to play with the Jets. His replacement, Jordan Love, had yet to show anything to be excited about. Green Bay simply wasn't accustomed to dealing with such question marks at QB. The Packers were in the bottom half of the league for odds to win the Super Bowl as a result. They weren't expected to be terrible, but few were expecting a postseason run. But that's exactly what happened. The story is slightly different as this offseason continues. Packers are expected to push for a playoff spot once again. The club has added to the arsenal via the draft and free agency, while Love is suddenly a dark horse MVP candidate. However, when the discussion turns to the top contenders to win it all, Green Bay is mentioned by few, if any. The 49ers and Chiefs dominate the conversation, followed by several of last season's also-rans, teams like the Ravens, Lions, Bills, Eagles, and Cowboys. Is that a mistake? Has Green Bay done the unthinkable and found another legitimate franchise QB? Should the Packers be receiving more love as we count down to week 1? Before we dive into that, take a second to like this video and hit subscribe so you can stay in the loop on the Packers and the rest of the league for the remainder of the offseason and beyond. A season ago, Green Bay busted out of the gates with a stirring 38-20 road win over the rival Bears. Love looked every bit the part of a primetime player, throwing for 245 yards and 3 scores. The defense did its part to demoralize the Windy City faithful, capped off with a 37-yard pick six by Quay Walker to effectively ice the game in the fourth quarter. Unfortunately for the Pack, that would turn out to be the high point of the first half of the campaign. The club struggled mightily while dropping 6 of their next 8. Green Bay entered Week 10 at 3-6 and looked to be well out of the playoff picture. Love and company came to life. A close home win over the Chargers stopped the bleeding. Green Bay was able to kick it into gear from there and raised plenty of eyebrows while doing so. On Thanksgiving Day, in front of a national audience, the Packers pulled out a surprising 29-22 road win over the division-leading Lions in a game that wasn't as close as the final score suggested. Green Bay walked onto the field as 8.5-point underdogs, but rolled to a 21-6 first-quarter lead and never looked back, highlighted by a 27-yard fumble return for a score by Jonathan Owens. The following week, the Packers were expected to come back to earth. The Chiefs entered Lambeau Field as 5.5-point favorites. Green Bay pulled out a 27-19 upset, once again in front of the eyes of the world on Sunday Night Football. Love further silenced the critics with his second consecutive 3-passing TD game. The Packers finally cooled off and dropped 2 straight to fall to 6-8. While still alive in the chase, the postseason prospects were looking bleak. Green Bay responded once again. The club won the next 2 on the road to pull to 8-8 and entered the final week alive in the hunt. The regular season came to a close with a visit from the Bears. The Packers finished the same way that they started, taking down their rivals, this time by a score of 17-9. Thanks to tiebreakers, Green Bay managed to squeak into the playoffs with a record of 9-8. Just like at the beginning of the season, not much was expected when the playoffs kicked off. In fact, the Pack walked into AT&T Stadium as 7.5-point underdogs. Once again, they pulled out a stunner under the bright lights. Green Bay dominated the proceedings, rolling to a 27-0 first-half lead on the way to a 48-32 laugher. Love had another 3 TD game. Darnell Savage's 64-yard pick six served as another dagger, with the Cowboys reduced to putting up points in garbage time. The divisional round brought them to San Francisco as heavy 10.5-point underdogs to the 49ers. The Packers came oh so close to pulling out another mindbender. They held a 21-14 lead heading into the final frame, but the 49ers controlled the action the rest of the way to escape with a 3-point win. Last season is a memory at this point, but building blocks were laid during an eventful Packers campaign. A strong finish down the stretch, a dominant road win over the Cowboys to kick off the playoffs, and a near upset of the eventual NFC champion 49ers equals plenty to hang your hat on. Green Bay hasn't rested on its laurels while hoping for better days. They've bolstered the ranks in a big way this offseason. New arrivals during free agency include Josh Jacobs, who now tops the running back depth chart. Aaron Jones has taken his talents over to the Vikings. Jacobs is looking to bounce back from a disappointing season with the Raiders, but that came on the heels of him leading the league in rushing yards in 2022. Now 26, Jacobs is 3 years younger than Jones, and he just may have a chip on his shoulder. He'll look to prove himself in new surroundings, trading the uncertainty of life in Las Vegas for a chance to make a difference with a potential contender in Green Bay. The club also beefed up the offensive line by inking former first-round pick Andre Dillard. The secondary took a hit with Jonathan Owens leaving to join the Bears, but the Packers made it a wash by bringing Xavier McKinney to town. At the NFL Draft, Green Bay had a whopping 11 picks, with 5 in the first 3 rounds alone. The team's top choice was Jordan Morgan, a 6'4", 311-pound offensive tackle by way of Arizona. Defense was the focus for 4 of the next 5 selections, headlined by linebacker Edgerrin Cooper and safety Javon Bullard in round 2. The rookies joined a defense that ranked 17th in total yards and 10th in points allowed a season ago. A unit that features stud defenders Quay Walker, Rashawn Gary, and Jair Alexander could be poised to be even better. Offensively, the Packers averaged 345.5 yards per game last season, good enough for 11th in the league, and 22.5 points, which ranked 12th. Could this side of the ball be even better in 2024? The answer is a resounding yes. For his first full year as the QB1 in Green Bay, Love threw for 4,159 yards, 32 touchdowns, and 11 interceptions. He also ran for 4 scores for good measure. The turnover count is a little concerning, but digging deeper shows that his accuracy improved as the season moved along. Over the final 8 weeks of the regular season, Love tossed just 1 pick while throwing 18 touchdowns. It's not hard to see why he's considered a dark horse MVP contender. The arrow appears to be heading up in a big way. The experience of the receiving corps was another black mark heading into last season. As it turns out, the Packers actually have a solid assortment of young threats. In bad news for the rest of the NFC North, Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs, and Jaden Reed all showed major flashes a season ago. What are they going to do this year with even more seasoning under their belts? New arrival Jacobs could quickly make his mark on the backfield, while A.J. Dillon returns as the solid second half of a 1-2 punch. Meanwhile, third-round draft choice Marshawn Lloyd out of USC is there to provide some depth. The division chase should be interesting this season. The Lions are favored to take the crown once again. The Bears could be up or down depending on rookie Caleb Williams, while the Vikings may take a step back after parting ways with Kirk Cousins. Green Bay is the top threat to the Lions' chances of repeating as NFC North champs. At a minimum, the Packers appear to be in fantastic shape to at least be in the wildcard hunt. The big dogs for the NFC for the coming season are expected to be the 49ers, Lions, Eagles, and Cowboys. Green Bay is behind that group, but knocking on the door loudly. They open the season with a chance to make a statement. The season kicks off for the Packers against the Eagles. It's not only a rare Friday night game, but also one that will mark the NFL's debut appearance in Brazil. As we see it, there's a lot to like about the Packers heading into this season. Do you agree? Think we're way off the mark? Keep the conversation going down in the comments and let us know what you think is on the way for Green Bay.